Imagine a billionaire so cold, so powerful, he refused to dance with a single soul at his own $1 million gala, until a black janitor in scruffy sneakers walked in with her little girl. What happened next left the entire ballroom speechless, and what the cameras captured went viral across the world. Stay till the end, because the twist will shock you. If you believe real class has nothing to do with money, subscribe for more stories that challenge everything you think you know. The night was velvet, studded with stars that barely competed. With the glimmer from the towering glass hotel on Manhattan's East Side, where one of the city's most exclusive charity galas was underway, hosted by none other than Sterling Wyndham, the elusive tech billionaire with a reputation for never smiling, never mingling, and definitely never dancing. The man who'd built his empire by the age of 32, owned skyscrapers, yachts, and hearts alike, but whose aloofness kept everyone an arm's length away, even the women in silk and diamonds swaying to live jazz at the center of the ballroom. Yet beneath that very hotel, down by the service elevator, Vanessa Carter, a black janitor in faded sneakers and a threadbare uniform, was quietly clocking out after a double shift, trying not to sigh as her 6-year-old daughter Amara, dressed in a second-hand pink dress with a missing bow, clutched her hand and asked innocently, "Mommy, what's up there? Why are the lights so pretty?" And Vanessa, bone-tired and used to being invisible, replied gently, "That's where rich people dance, baby." Not knowing fate was about to crack open a moment so unreal it would be replayed in headlines, TikToks, and memory for years to come, because just then, a catering manager in a panic burst through the kitchen doors shouting, "We're short a server! Someone get anybody decent looking in a black outfit, quick!" And eyes turned to Vanessa, who hesitated before being shoved a tray and black blazer 2 sizes too small. Unsure, but not one to say no to extra pay, she nodded. "Just for an hour," she told Amara, who promised to wait in the staff lounge. And as Vanessa ascended the back stairs holding a tray of champagne glasses like it was gold, the double doors swung open and there she was. Not a guest, not a server, not a dancer, but someone who didn't belong, not until she did, because Sterling's eyes, always cold and glassy behind his signature black frames, locked on hers from across the room, and something in him, something ancient, aching, and buried, stirred, while his voice whispered to no one in particular, "Her. Who is she?" Vanessa moved gracefully, unaware of the tension her presence created as she weaved through crystal chandeliers and golden gowns, politely offering champagne to billionaires and politicians who didn't look her in the eye, until one woman, Sterling's date, if you could call her that, a model named Cassandra draped in white sequins, wrinkled her nose and muttered, "They're letting maids serve now?" Loud enough to draw smirks and glances, but Vanessa simply smiled and walked on, her dignity intact like armor, unaware that the host himself had stood up for the first time all evening, ignoring his business partners mid-sentence. His posture, rigid as he watched her from the mezzanine above, his fingers twitching by his side like he wanted to speak, to interrupt, to cross a line he'd spent years building. And when a guest from London asked, "Sterling, aren't you going to open the dance floor?" his reply was curt. Not interested, though his eyes never left Vanessa's profile. Meanwhile, downstairs, Amara had wandered from the staff lounge after her coloring book tour, quietly padding her way into the edge of the ballroom, unnoticed, until a curious server knelt and said, "Hey, sweetheart, are you lost?" But before security could be called, Vanessa spotted her daughter near the marble stairs and dashed over, tray and all, bending down and whispering, "Baby, you can't. Be in here." But Amara, wide-eyed, pointed toward the music and said, "Mommy, they're dancing like princesses." And that's when Sterling moved, crossing the room in long, deliberate strides, ignoring gasps, passing stunned celebrities, and stopping mere inches from Vanessa and Amara, the tray shaking slightly in her hand as she looked up, expecting to be fired, reprimanded, anything, until he surprised everyone by kneeling slowly before Amara and saying, "Would you like to dance, young lady?" Silence fell like snowfall, broken only by the child's delighted giggle and Vanessa's whispered, "Wait, what?" And before anyone could comprehend, Sterling Wyndham, who had never danced with a soul, took the tiny hand of a janitor's daughter and led her to the polished marble floor as the band, sensing magic, shifted to a slow lullaby, while the crowd parted in stunned reverence and cameras began to rise, one capturing the billionaire lifting Amara gently and spinning once, twice, until everyone forgot who they were supposed to be and simply watched. The moment exploded online within hours, clips shared with captions like, "Real power doesn't need a tuxedo," and "Billionaire dances with janitor's daughter melts the internet," turning Vanessa into an overnight symbol of grace, while the press descended like bees, buzzing for quotes she didn't want to give, dodging reporters as she tried to return to her regular life. But life didn't let her, because Sterling showed up the very next day at her small apartment complex in Harlem in a black car with no entourage, holding a bouquet and asking humbly, "May I take you both to lunch?" And though Vanessa hesitated, wary of motives, of headlines, of hearts that hurt, she eventually agreed, and over plates of pasta, Sterling began to open, sharing things the world never knew. How he lost his little sister to illness at age 7. How his mother was once a maid who scrubbed floors so he could go to school. How he'd built walls around his soul and mistaken them for skyscrapers. How her smile, just her calm, defiant smile at that gala, reminded him of someone he'd almost forgotten, someone pure. Vanessa listened, but said little, her own story unfolding quietly. How she once dreamed of being a teacher, how life had other plans when her husband died and bills piled too high, how Amara was her heartbeat and cleaning floors was survival. And Sterling didn't flinch, didn't pity, just listened. And when he asked if he could sponsor Amara's school tuition and Vanessa refused at first, pridefully, he said gently, "Then let me invest in a woman who raised such a beautiful child," and offered her a position as head of hospitality at his firm's new sustainable hotel project, not because she needed charity, but because he'd watched her manage chaos better than most executives. But the real twist came weeks later, when an old photograph resurfaced from the archives of Sterling's mother, a young black maid holding a baby on her hip, a smile identical to Vanessa's. And further digging revealed a connection that left Sterling speechless. Their mothers had worked in the same hotel in the 80s, close friends separated by time and silence. And Vanessa's mother had once saved Sterling's from being deported, a favor now repaid in the most divine of months past. And the world moved on, as it always does, but not before the story took on a life of its own. A children's book deal for Vanessa, a scholarship fund in her name, and a gala the following year, this time held at the brand-new Carter Wyndham Center for Arts and Hospitality, where Vanessa stood in a sleek dress beside Sterling, no longer the janitor, but co-director, co-leader, co-heart. And when the music began and guests waited for the host's traditional refusal to dance, Sterling turned to her with a grin that made the cameras click and whispered, "Shall we show them how it's done?" And they danced, slowly, purposefully, as Amara ran circles around them in her princess dress, the same marble floor beneath their feet. But this time, no lines between rich and poor, black and white, servant and served. Just people, moving. In rhythm with something far bigger than music, redemption, grace, and the raw beauty of second chances. And as the final note played and the crowd erupted in thunderous applause, Vanessa whispered back, "For a man who never danced, you sure knew all the right steps?" To which Sterling replied, "I was just waiting for the right partner."